Bellarmine Preparatory School is a Catholic Jesuit school inspired by the vision of St. Ignatius of Loyola. St. Ignatius sought to find God in all things, in all of God's creation, especially in all peoples. As such, he used all these things for the greater glory of God to encourage others to live out their gospel values for the care of others. And I think it's important to be able to say that it's for the care of others within living in the world, and it's a uniquely Jesuit way. So as Jesuit educators, this Justice Summit on Human Dignity is a means to explore and to dialogue those relationships with one another and with our God, to be able to make a difference in the world. And I think it's really important to be able to stress that relationship. And that's what we try to enhance in terms of Jesuit education. There are no easy answers, but our faith can be an important lens through which we can focus on those things that are important to us and that are valuable, and trying to analyze those complexities of our human relationships to help us to be able to, as St. Ignatius says, to discern those social and economic ills and elements that really have an impact on the justice that we most need in this world. In our Jesuit Summit, we ask participants to understand, to listen, and to be able to, from that listening, to act in a manner that is in keeping with that sense of Jesuit education. From our document, What Makes a Jesuit School Jesuit? A Jesuit education should aim to free the community to be able to confront honestly those social injustices that we find relative to racism, sexism, religious intolerance. I think this is the legacy of St. Ignatius of Loyola, to be able to find God in all things for the greater glory of God, but especially to be able to find that unique relationship that we all have with one another and with our God.
As a Catholic school in the Jesuit tradition of education, Bellarmine has always been committed to educating students to engage meaningfully in dialogue on the most pressing issues of our time and our society. Sometimes these issues can be challenging, unsettling, or difficult to know how to talk about, but these are exactly the kinds of issues that we as Jesuit educators and students need to be courageous enough to address. To help our community engage in this important work, we implemented a program last year called the Justice Summit on Human Dignity. The goal of this program is to dedicate time throughout the year to taking a deep dive into a specific justice topic, to expand our individual knowledge of that topic, and to engage in constructive dialogue as a community, to discern action steps we can take to help address the injustices present in our society. Last year, for our first Justice Summit, we chose the theme of understanding race in the 21st century. We began exploring this important topic through a series of guest speakers, lessons, and discussions conducted through our Ignatian Formation program, and in other engagement opportunities. Unfortunately, the events we had planned for the spring had to be canceled due to the COVID pandemic. So we are continuing for this school year with our theme of understanding race in the 21st century. Events this summer have demonstrated even more clearly the urgency of this issue and the need for intentional action to address it. Issues of race and justice are at the forefront of our national consciousness and conversation. And as a Jesuit institution dedicated to educating leaders who will help society deal with these issues, we are called to respond now more than ever. Over the course of our work this year, I want to ask you to proceed and approach it with three goals in mind. First, I want to challenge you to listen. Listen to one another. Listen to your heart. Listen to the movement of the Spirit in the conversations that we'll be having. Listen with an open mind and an open heart. Second, I want to ask you to understand. Take what you've heard in your listening and process it. Begin to reach into the experience of others and understand the concepts and principles underlying those justice issues of race in 21st century America. And finally, I want to challenge you to engage, to act upon the results of what you've heard and what you've understood. By putting these things into practice, we will truly be answering the call as a Jesuit Catholic institution to move forward in serving others and in addressing issues of injustice and race in our world today.
The Bellarmine community is made up of a diverse group of people. Our students, parents, and our employees represent a plethora of ethnic and cultural backgrounds. This makes us a unique and special place. We celebrate those differences. At times it can create tension. It can make it difficult to have deep conversation. That is why we rely on the 7 principles of a constructive dialogue. When we are in those tense moments, it's important for us to lean into our faith and to understand that we each bring gifts and talents that make this a unique and special place. As we move forward in this work, the focus is on race, because this is a particularly interesting time for us with this topic. It has created unrest and disappointment in the way that people have behaved towards one another. This is something that Bellarmine wants to do better. We want to be better so we can serve our students, our current and our future students, in the best way possible. At the center of our courtyard is the Grad at Grad, and it represents what we stand for, that we want all of our students to be loving, to be mindful of social justice issues, to be intellectually competent, and to be open to growth, and to be religious. Part of that work is intentional. Actually, most of it is intentional. We engage our students in dialogue that allow them to see these differences as unique and special gifts that each person brings to our campus. So we should lean into one another and listen and learn instead of being in opposition. Our mission statement challenges us to develop leaders, servant leaders, who are compassionate and competent. We must do our own work and lean into that work from others as well as we grow and better understand so we can serve the students of today and tomorrow.
The 2021 Justice Summit on Human Dignity topic is Understanding Race in the 21st Century. We began this exploration last year, but it was interrupted because of the COVID-19 global pandemic. This year's continuation of the Justice Summit will focus on the ways in which systemic racism impacts our society. The Summit Ignatian Formation activities, breakout sessions, webinars, discussions, speakers, and reflections will all align with our school theme. Together, we are Bellarmine, building community through identity, empathy, and action. At our Dr. Martin Luther King Assembly last year, presenter Ahmad Hanley helped us explore a timeline of racial injustices, which was followed by a lesson on redlining in Tacoma. This year, our summer reading selection was the historical novel Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. Our Bellarmine community learned about exploring identity, racism, the internment of Japanese Americans in the United States in the 1940s through the virtual visit of author Jamie Ford at our all-school webinar on September 16th. On October 7th, Dr. Raylina Joseph will conduct a webinar with our students on interrupting microaggressions. Sometimes conversations about race can be difficult, often because the information can be intimidating. Sometimes we avoid talking about race because we fear conflict or that we might unintentionally hurt someone else. We want to start on a path toward racial justice while listening to people's experiences. We want to establish some shared language. Throughout the summit, we will use simple guidelines, the 7 principles of constructive dialogue. They will help us have critical conversations in an open and respectful way. These will create a framework for our discussions this year. 1. Presume good intentions.
Even if someone says something you disagree with, assume that person has good intentions.
2. Use I statements.
For example, I feel, I think, or I say.
3. Understand that the speaker's individual experience may be different from yours.
Someone's experience might be different than yours, but it doesn't make it any less valid.
4. Ask questions of others as individuals.
While we all belong to different groups, do not expect one person to speak for their entire race.
5, listen to understand, not to respond.
Sometimes we are talking to someone, we are focused on what we're going to say in response and fail to listen to the other person.
6, recognize that one's intent may differ from one's impact.
Be mindful of your intent when you share, but also be careful of what you're saying does not have a harmful impact.
And 7, seek to raise the bar for yourselves, your teachers, and your classmates.
As a student body, it is our goal to be open to growth and to be people for and with others. Let us listen to each other's experience with a heart of empathy.
We will be using the following key definitions. Race. Race is a socially constructed category based on perceived appearance. Race is how one physically appears to other people. Race is related to where you are originally from. Ethnicity. Ethnicity is one's ancestral background, basically where you're from. Nationality. Nationality is one's citizenship or national affinity. What country you are born in or moved to, and then change citizenship. Culture. Culture refers to ways of seeing and ways of being. It consists of values, beliefs, systems of language, cuisine, social habits, music, and practices that people share in common, and that can be used to define them as a collective. Racism, anti-Blackness, anti-racist, systemic racism. Racism is defined as prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. There's another concept of this known as anti-Blackness, which is a sentiment where Black people are seen as the ultimate other and is foundational to racism and the systemic racism and the oppression of marginalized groups. Anti-racism is a form of action against racism based on the conscious efforts and actions to provide equitable opportunities for all people. And finally, systemic racism, also known as institutionalized racism, is a form of racism expressed in the practice of social and political institutions. This often results in depriving certain individuals and groups of civil liberties, such as wealth, income, employment, housing, healthcare, political power, and education, and hindering opportunities for social, educational, and political advancement, among other factors.
Hi, I'm Jamila Momo, and I identify as Nigerian American.
I'm Elisa Kua, and I identify as Chinese Filipino American.
My name is Barbara Henderson, and I identify as African American.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Lowe, and I identify as Chinese American.
Hello, I'm Father Fred Mioski. I'm a Jesuit priest, and I identify as Caucasian.
Hi, my name is Father Natch Ono, and I identify as Japanese American.
Hi, I'm Megan Matthew, and I identify as a straight white woman.
Hi, it's Mrs. Lindstrom, and I identify as a cisgendered, straight, Irish-Italian American woman.
Hi, I'm Olivia Quintanilla, and I identify as white and Pacific Islander.
My name is Michael Peterson, and I identify as Black or African American.
I'm Jeannie Hannigan, and I identify as Filipino, French, German, and American.
I'm Kai Wersch, and I identify as biracial.
My name is Martha Kresick Parent, and I identify as Bohemian and German American.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I identify as Chinese American.
I'm Maren Jones, and I identify as Chinese.
I'm Izzy. I identify as Black, Korean, and Cambodian.
Cecilia Mwangi, and I identify as Kenyan American.
I'm Rachel Karaoke, and I identify as a Kenyan American.
I'm Maria Romero, and I'm Hispanic.
My name is Malia Kaiser. I identify as Chinese American.
Together we are Bellarmine.
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 Together, we are Bellarmine, building community through identity, empathy, and action.